Good morning, Long Island, and welcome to CMM Live, where we are helping Long Island thrive. It's a beautiful day outside. It's June 19th, a Tuesday, and today's topic we're going to be talking about is housing. As our viewers know, what we seek to do here on CMM Live is take an issue and then highlight the people on Long Island who really have the talent to have gone anywhere else in the world to practice their trade, their craft, their business, but they've chosen to make Long Island their home and their place of business. Today we have an extraordinary lineup of guests. We're going to start off with my good friend Sal Ferro. Sal is the president and CEO of Alure Home Improvements. He typically needs no introduction. He's also the president of the Long Island Building Institute here on Long Island. Works with our friend Mitch Pally, who was on our show as well. Sal, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Joe. I'm thrilled to be here today.
And we're thrilled to have you. Good-looking guy like you, man. You know, it's really good.
You speak to my mom this morning?
Good, I did. She called me. It was all good. Sal, we want to talk about housing, and really there is no more recognizable brand on Long Island than the Alure brand when it comes to housing, home improvements, just the amazing job you guys have done helping build Long Island. I mean, it's really, you've helped build Long Island. And we focus a lot on jobs and job creation and folks that are creating jobs, which we'll talk about how you've grown in your company. But you can't have jobs if people don't have houses. You can't have jobs if people don't have any place to live. So we salute that. So let's start from the beginning. You're a Lindenhurst High School guy, right?
Yes.
A SUNY Farmingdale guy, a tried and true Long Islander. Why Long Island? Why did you build your career on Long Island? How did you get your start here on Long Island? Let's go back to the roots for a minute.
Well, I was born in the Bronx, and my family moved out to Long Island, and I loved it. We grew up here, stayed here, and I feel my success is attributed to what I learned here. Growing up in Lindenhurst was great, blue-collar town. Got my roots there, my work ethic. Went to SUNY Farmingdale. Great. I went there for 2 years. Great 2 years. I owe a lot to my time there. I'm still attached to the college. I'm associated with the college on the foundation board. I look at Long Island as an incredible place to be. There's tremendous opportunity. We're close to the city. We've got the beaches. We've got so much. We've got research centers. We've got great universities. You name it, Long Island has it. And it's a great place to do business. And my company, we rebuild homes. We take the housing stock that we have and we make sure that it's in great shape. And we give people an opportunity to rebuild their homes, give them the dream homes they want. But I represent the Long Island Builders Institute, and what that institute does is build new homes. And housing is a huge part of the economy. I mean, it's just a huge economic engine. And part of what's happening now is, there's so much more going on in housing that wasn't happening years ago to help transcend Long Island, what it was, to just a sleepy hamlet outside of New York, to its own center with trans-oriented housing and stuff like that. So back to what you said, why Long Island? Because it's just a great place with so much opportunity.
Yeah, and that's what I'd love to focus on. I mean, I don't think that the news media out here on Long Island does a good job at promoting all of the positive and all of the opportunity that we have here on Long Island. It's usually a negative story that every day in Newsday, it's a negative story, and we really want to hear the positive stories. We really want, talent to understand that if they come to Long Island, they make a choice to work on Long Island, they're going to have leaders like you, leading the way and inspiring them and guiding them and mentoring them and everything else. So I think it's really important. We really appreciate you having you on the show. So talk about your rise to CEO, right? You started, I think, with the company in 1989, it was?
Yes, 1989 I started. Had a background in home improvements, swung a hammer for many years, went to school for business. I thought my dream was going to be Wall Street, realized it wasn't my cup of tea, went back to swinging a hammer, went back to home improvements, and decided to go work for a company that I didn't have any ties to. I previously had worked for a family company, and I went to work for Alure as a junior project manager, just getting into home improvement business. We were formerly a painting company owned by Carl and Bob Hyman and their dad Sal. And as we ventured into home improvements, I was their first guy who had home improvement experience. And from there, we opened up a kitchen and bath business, opened up a showroom in East Meadow on Hempstead Turnpike. And from there, we grew the company. 2002, I became the CEO, part owner earlier than that, and ownership grew. And from there, we just kind of took off. I became sole owner a couple of years back. I bought my partners out. They retired. And it's been a great story, a story that in our industry, in the remodeling industry, has been written up many times in magazines of how you can have a great exit strategy while growing the company. And we've done some wonderful things with Alure.
Yeah, you guys really have. It's funny that you mentioned that you thought about being a stockbroker, because I always view on Long Island home improvement companies as stockbrokers. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. The biggest investment most Long Islanders have is their home.
Yes.
Right? And so if they're going to be doing improvements on their home, it's like buying a stock. It's like investing into the biggest investment that they already have. And there's been, I think where you guys have really been successful and important to Long Islanders, there's just been so many horror stories with contractors, just like there are with lawyers and in any other industry, with contractors who, lots of lawyers who, who shaft people, who leave them hanging, who don't do quality work, who don't stand by their warranties. Every single person I know that's ever used your services says exactly the opposite. They rave about it. How important is that customer service, that customer experience to you? Because I think that's really where you differentiate yourselves.
That's really where the tire hits the road. We created a raving fan customer service philosophy many years ago. I read a book by Ken Blanchard, Raving Fans. I went out to San Diego. I met Ken Blanchard. I spent 2 weeks at his institute learning about the philosophy. I brought it back. I wrote a vision statement. Raving Fans, it's beyond satisfying your customer. You have to go beyond that. But more importantly, you brought out that whole stockbroker, that whole mentality. The home is most likely the biggest investment for most people. And we took that to heart. And being in our industry, if you recognize that that home is the most important asset, you need to be on the client's agenda. In doing so, you need to recognize for most people, the biggest part of making a decision is fear. You have to eliminate fear. And the way to eliminate fear is by being the safest, most secure choice. And that's what Alure is. We've been around for 72 years. We're all over, everywhere you turn. We're financially stable. We've got every insurance license, everything else, service and warranty department. People know when they deal with Alure, we've got a company we can trust, we can feel safe and secure with. We're not infallible. We make mistakes, but we stand behind our work. And in home improvements, it's important because it goes back to what you said. The home is one of the biggest assets. And we recognized that many years ago.
Yeah, there's nothing more unsettling than when you have somebody come in and rip your house apart and then disappear on you. There's really nothing more unsettling and stressful. We're dealing with folks now, I can't believe it, that 35 families we're dealing with now at my office where Superstorm Sandy took out their homes and the contractors disappeared on them, and they're still not back in their homes. It's so stressful that it's such a great service when you have a company like yours that's able to service them.
During Superstorm Sandy, we went on, we did some PSAs. I went on multiple radio stations, I went on TV, and we urged homeowners to do their due diligence. I went with the Long Island Builders Institute. We spent money and we worked with local media to get out there and remind homeowners, do your due diligence, don't hire out-of-state people unless you've really vetted them well, and make sure you're truly keeping an eye on the financial aspect of what you're doing, because there are storm chasers. Storm comes, people come in from everywhere. They chase it, they come in and they run, and then who's left? The poor homeowner.
Yeah, I didn't focus on it. It's almost like they run a Ponzi scheme, these storm chasers.
Yeah.
They come in, they get your money, and then they disappear and they go find another storm. It's terrible. So, for doing it 70 plus years, you guys are definitely doing something right. Tell us about the offerings. So what are the core things that you guys are focused on? What are some of the bigger projects you're more proud of in terms of, higher end remodels you guys are doing? Talk about your suite of services.
We have, for the most part, we have 3 divisions. We have an exterior division that specializes in siding, windows, and roofing. We do from basic to, everything.
Yep.
And we really focus on the design aspect rather than just a simple go out there and throw siding on the house. We'll take a picture of the home and we'll show you what your home will look like with all different types of siding, add-on shutters, add-on portico. Then we have our alteration division, which is dormers, extensions, room additions, you name it, all design build. We design it, we put the plans together, we build it. And then we have our kitchen and bath division. And that kitchen and bath division is anywhere from full custom, which can be middle of the road, to higher end, or what we call our extreme division, which is our proprietary 5-day bathroom and 10-day kitchen program, which is a more in-the-home sales, simplified design, simplified selling approach that allows a little easier process for the homeowner and a quicker process. And we designed that years ago to be able to, reach further territories and give the homeowner a simpler process.
Yeah, and it sounds like maybe out of an extreme makeover home edition that you learn those techniques to be able to do that. Talk about that, because I mean, it really is incredible how you guys got involved in that and the philanthropy behind it. Talk about that a bit.
We were approached back in season 1 of Extreme Makeover Home Edition from ABC to help out a family and actually 2 firefighters in the city after what had happened in 9/11. And we said, sure, we'd help them out. We redid an apartment in the city. And from there, we had a great connection with the show. And we ended up doing 8 more shows. We did 2 episodes on Long Island. We did a couple episodes up in Westchester, Putnam County. We did New Orleans. We did 2 in Queens. So we ended up developing this relationship with the show where when there was a family in need in our area, we kind of had a tough time saying no.
Yeah.
We built these homes in actually 4 days, knocked them down, built new homes, and then the last day, the 5th day, we kind of started doing all the decorating and finishing touches and painting. The key to it was, not just Alure, the key to it was the community. The community came together, whether it be the municipality helping with the permits and helping guide us along with inspectors and joining on board and saying, we got you back, to the homeowners, to the people, the heroes that we were helping save, or the community of volunteers that came out, carpenters, painters, roofers, whoever it may be, and said, Alure, we'll help you with this. Nobody got paid for this. We didn't get paid. It cost me tons of money each show we did, but the show did help us get donations for material. And we ended up each episode changing a family's life through their home.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the public relations you got out of it. You were a rock star for a while there while you were doing it.
To my kids, I was.
Although I can imagine, just understanding, understanding people. I can imagine it's been used against you as well. If you tell people it's going to take us 2 weeks to get this bathroom done, they'll say, "But you built a house in 4 days. I don't understand. Why is this taking 2 weeks?" I'm sure that comes around, But really great work. We were all from Long Islanders across the board, and that's what I really mean about you. You made Long Island proud by stepping up and doing that. And you built a beautiful brand for yourself, but you really made Long Islanders proud that there was somebody stepping up doing that. And I think it's important for Long Islanders to understand that. Philanthropy is a big part of Alure. You guys are always out giving. I know you give scholarships. Talk about the joy of giving back. I mean, I really can understand that.
I always felt I didn't come from a lot. I lost my dad when I was 18 and my brother when I was 9, and it was a struggle. And as a family, we stuck together. I'm one of brothers and sisters. My mom's still alive. Hi, Mom.
I spoke to her this morning. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. But I always felt that if I had the opportunity, I wanted to be able to give back. This year we opened up the Ferro Foundation, and through the Ferro Foundation we're going to be giving scholarships to help children go to college. With the Farmingdale College Foundation, which gives out scholarships. Libby, we have Long Island Home Builders Care. We just gave out 2 scholarships, and we give scholarships each year. I believe education's very important. Doing philanthropic stuff, it shouldn't be hard, because when it's hard, it's not good. It should be something that you can do. You do from your heart and you can afford to do. And if you can't afford to do something monetarily, do something with your time. We have a great culture at Alure. Everything we did with Extreme Makeover wasn't Sal Ferro. It was Alure. It was my COO, Doug Cornwell, behind the scenes, breaking his back. It was my director of marketing, Seth, or Frank Stellick, my director of production. These people just killing themselves, making it happen. So it really is a team effort, what Alure does in terms of philanthropic efforts.
Yeah, and it's noticeable, and it's really appreciated. Again, that's when you look across Long Island and you see the Alure logo on so many different charitable events and so many different things that you guys do. Again, it makes us proud that you're here on Long Island, you're helping grow Long Island.
Joe, I love Long Island.
Yeah.
I think we got to give back. If every business gave back and felt a pride to give back to the community that's made them who they are, we'd have a way better place.
Yep, and then that's what we're trying to do in our little corner of the world here by spotlighting folks like you. We try. You know, we have you as a mentor and a role model as to what a successful business needs to do. What are the challenges now with housing on Long Island, right? So we went through 2008 hits, the whole world melts down. Now we're back on the upswing. Talk about the challenges and how Allure has sort of recreated itself and grown through this whole process.
As far as Allure goes, you know, we had to diversify. We as a remodeling company, and we do some new construction, but our main thing is remodeling. And I'm part of the Long Island Builders Institute, and one of the largest remodelers in the country. And the reason I align myself with the builders is because I believe that as long as we're building and rebuilding Long Island, there will be tremendous remodeling opportunities as well. And we've got a great host of builders on Long Island, rebuilding Long Island. You know, we rebuilt us, we've diversified, you know, we move in and out of businesses, we adjust our kitchen and bath business to go with the trends. Same thing with siding, windows and roofing. But when it comes to housing and the challenges, if we're not keeping people on Long Island, there'll be no remodeling needs for me because there'll be no economy on Long Island. There'll be less legal needs for you because there won't be no industry on Long Island. So we have to ensure that there's a economy. We have the Long Island economy, and our economy is very large. We'd be one of the top 20 states, okay, right in the 22 to 27 range in terms of population in the United States. Long Island's population. So we have our own. Years ago, we were just a side thing to New York City. We aren't anymore. We've got industry. We've got, like I said, the research centers, Brookhaven, Cold Spring Harbor, Stony Brook, tremendous universities, tourism, the beaches, out east. So as we think about this, we need to get people to stay here. We also have New York City. So there's a tremendous amount of employment there, whether it be Wall Street, marketing. Why are people moving to live in Brooklyn or Jersey? Why aren't they living on Long Island? Okay, we need places for them to live. We need transportation. Okay, we need vibrant communities for them to want to stay and enjoy themselves. We didn't have that. We are now starting to have that. You look at Patchogue. Pontieri did a great job making sure that happened. What are the challenges? Challenges are zoning, NIMBYism. Nobody wants it. Traffic. Everybody thinks it's going to affect the school systems. I can go down the list of the effects. And then there's a tremendous issue with political courage. The political courage to do what you know is right for the future of your town. What's right for the future of my town? The right thing is to build communities with some density, the right density, to ensure that we're going to have millennials, seniors stay. Seniors contribute a tremendous amount to the community without overburdening the school systems. Okay? We need that. Okay? But sometimes there isn't the political courage. Why? Because you have NIMBYism and you have people who are starting to push heavily on one side. And then you have the mentality that it's the greedy developer. So we have to work and fix a lot of this. What has happened? You've had some political courage. Patchogue, Pontieri. We're seeing some great strides that have happened in Huntington recently. There's been some rebuilding. Ronkonkoma Hub is going to be fantastic. Okay? Farmingdale. Have you been to Farmingdale recently?
I haven't.
Joe, it's spectacular. Some of the development that's been done down there, so much more vibrant than it's ever been. Beautiful housing. Not just nice, these are beautiful places. You look at what Albanese did in Wyandanch Rising. What Babylon did to make sure something like this happened. You're revitalizing communities. TriTech's working on something in the village of Lindenhurst. The village of Lindenhurst is working on revitalizing around the train station. These are key housing initiatives that are going to ensure that we have housing in areas where people can live, go to work, and still enjoy themselves in a village.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Patchogue and Pontieri, everybody talks about it. I don't think people understand how important that project was, because you talk about political courage, and I remember Paul in the early stages of it saying, they got a choice. We can do this, or I can raise their taxes. I don't know what else to say. Nobody wants their taxes raised, and now you see it, like you said, all these projects going on, and we see Ed Wareheim in Smithtown now saying the same thing. We need to revitalize, or else we're going to have to raise the taxes.
Since he's in office, the first 100 days, I think they had 1.2 million square foot into development, which was unknown before that happened. And no disrespect to the former regime, but right now Ed is moving forward with saying, listen, we have to move Smithtown to the next level. When you drive through Smithtown, it looks like it did 10 years ago,
Yep.
15, 20 years ago. You know, Huntington, you drive through, starting to look good. Patchogue looks great. Each town needs to be revitalized, and you know what? It's going to be a race to who gets there first.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun watching them now all of a sudden start to hustle around. It really is. Let's talk about remodel a little bit. It's funny, my father and I just had a conversation this morning. They're in their house 48 years. And he said at this point, everything has been redone. He just had a new septic system. He said everything at this point is redone. The challenge is who's going to buy his house, right? And when I had Mitch on here, Mitch Pally, he said the same thing. He said, I love my house. I live in Stony Brook. It's a beautiful house. Who's going to buy it, though? That's the challenge.
According to housing values now, they're the highest they've been at any time in recent memory. I mean, right now, housing values, my wife is a real estate agent with Douglas Elliman. She can't hold on to a house. The housing stock is low. There's no inventory. So right now, who's going to buy his house? Plenty of people.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to flesh out with you a little bit, because your finger's on the pulse a little bit more than a hypothetical. You know, there seems to be a lot of construction going on. I know workers are scarce. I know a lot of people who are in the construction business.
Not single-family homes. A lot of rentals. There was a huge shortage of rentals on Long Island. Thousands of rentals behind where we should be. That's what's being made up. You know, companies like Avalon Bay, Tritech, AVR, they're building rentals. They're starting to fill what we needed. Okay, single-family homes, not so much. So the existing stock, the stock that I fix and remodel,
Yep.
needs work. Will continue to need work, and there's no inventory. There's a shortage of inventory. So when something goes out, it gets plucked up pretty quickly. So right now, it's a good time for your father to sell.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Is there a trend, so younger population, millennials trying to relocate here on Long Island, build their families? Is there a trend in remodel? Are there certain things you see now that are being done that hadn't been done, or is it pretty consistent and stable along the way, you know?
Kitchens and baths are always the foundation for everything. They don't last forever.
Right.
It's a business that for some reason was recession-proof. The last recession, that part of our business actually grew through the recession. So it's somewhat recession-proof, the kitchen and bath business. And we find, regardless of what's happening out there, people are still remodeling their kitchen and baths when they move into a house. And sometimes they do it to sell their home. Typically, it's one of the first remodels done when somebody buys their home, a new home. It's a kitchen or a bathroom. They want their own. They want it to feel like it's theirs.
Yeah.
And that's the center of a home, the kitchen.
Yeah, no, it's a great, so it stays traditional. It's always been the kitchen and the baths, and it seems like it's going to remain the kitchen
Backyard
and the
living
baths.
is more popular now. The
Yeah.
back porch, doing something more
Outdoor
grand.
fireplaces, stuff
Outdoor
like
fireplaces, you're seeing a lot more of that. That's that secondary thing. Once you're living in the home a little while, and you can, it's the luxury thing.
that. Yeah,
The staple, the kitchen and the bathroom.
yeah. And you're not seeing a slowdown on investment in homes, are you? You guys are, so how many remodel jobs you guys think you'll do this year?
We'll probably do anywhere in the 1,300 to 1,400 projects this year.
It's unbelievable. They're really, and people say that people aren't spending money, and I think they are. I think it's, you know, I think it's great. You know, we'll change topics for a minute. The Mets. So I know you're a diehard Met fan like I am.
We just said that on TV here.
You know, what happened? What a year! I mean, I went into this year thinking what was going to happen. We were going to have a great year. I predicted on the Jay Oliver Show, opening day, that this was our year to go to the World Series.
I got caught up in the excitement with the the early 11-1 run. I believe injuries hurt. Listen, Cespedes out, Syndergaard's out. Lost Frazier for a while. Even the two catchers, Plawecki and Darno, they do. Maybe they didn't hit a lot, but they were your receivers. I also believe that there's somewhat of a culture issue. They don't always spend money wisely. I had high hopes for this manager. So far, what I've seen is during the losing streak, I didn't see enough from him to show me as a leader that he can do something. But you know what? You still have to have the players. So you can be Joe Torre, or you can be the best manager of all time. You still have to have the players. I don't know what to make of it, but I'm looking. The Giants look real good right now.
Yeah.
Quick change of subject.
Well,
Beckham says he's going to play. He's not going to hold out.
I love when a guy was born in the Bronx and is a Mets fan, so we had to talk about it. We had to
Mets,
talk
Giants?
about it a little bit. Let's talk about Libby. We got a couple minutes remaining. Let's talk about Libby because you're doing an incredible job there. I think you guys are one of the most important organizations on Long Island and directly to the Long Island economy. There's so many organizations out there, I don't even know what they do. But Libby actually gets things done. So you're the president of the organization and the board, and you run their PAC, and you got all sorts of great things going on there. Talk about what you're doing at Libby and why people should be members.
I think you need to be a member because you have to be part of a solution. There are so many developers and builders and remodelers that are just on the side enjoying the benefits of what we're doing as an organization, thinking, well, it's going to get done. We need their support. We need them to be part of the voice. Long Island Builders Institute is, we have a huge group, we're over almost 600 members, and what we do is we go out there and we advocate for our industry. And we do it in a way that is through dialogue and through doing the right thing. Really pushing for building the right way, bringing in the right people, having dialogue with our elected officials to help them understand what needs to be done out there from our point of view. I'll say this, I'm very proud of where Libby is. We are an incredible economic engine for Long Island. And when I became president, I said one of my initiatives was going to be to ensure that the public knew what an economic engine the builders and developers and remodelers are to Long Island, because without what we do, there would be a lot missing. Every big development you see out there is a tremendous amount of private money. Not public, private money. Now, many times there'll be IDA money supporting it, and maybe there's some public jobs, but many people don't realize how much private investment goes into building these apartments, building these developments. Private money employing hundreds and thousands of individuals, supporting the local stores, bringing all this tax revenue in places where there was no tax revenue. We're a huge economic engine, and an economic engine that's out there making a difference, doing philanthropic work through Long Island Home Builders Care, working with all organizations to help make Long Island a better place. It's in all of our best interests to make this a better place. And by creating smart housing, the right housing for the locality, working with elected officials and the community civic groups. Our developers just don't go out there and say, we want to build this. They meet with the civic groups. They say, listen, this is what we feel is right, but it also has to make sense economically for them to be able to invest and do it. They meet with the civic groups, meet with the elected officials, and create a program that works for everybody. So I'm very proud of what Libby's doing, and Mitch Pally is an incredible CEO, great guy to work with. We have Lois in the office, our operations manager, who's working nonstop. Got a good team there. I'm just proud to be the president.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And we got to end there, Sal. Folks, we've been joined with Sal Ferro here this morning from Alure Home Improvements and the president of the Long Island Builders Institute. Sal, people want to get in touch with Alure. They need some work. What's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
They can go to our website, allure.com, ALURE.com, or they can call us at 1-800-44-ALLURE, or they can just go on Google us. Allure.
Yeah, it's great. Sal Ferro, folks, thanks for joining us, and thanks for everything you do for Long Island, Sal. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe, for what you do for Long Island. I think what separates Alure from all the other construction companies that are out there is we focus on what's in it for our clients. People ask me in business, what keeps you up at night the most? And to me, it's not taking care of a customer, literally letting somebody down. If we totally focus on what the customer's needs are and their agenda, from the start, the phone call, to completion, and to a warranty, then the customer knows we're on their side.
We go to extremes to build your dreams. Allure Home Improvements.
Okay, kids, time for breakfast. I was on the Section 8 waiting list for like 8 years. I got a letter in the mail saying that there was this new program and that, because I was on the Section 8 waiting list, I was able to participate in this program if I wanted to. So I sent, the information in, and I got a call back. They started building the house, and once the house was built, we moved right in.
Welcome to my house.
I can't even describe the feeling, the pride that we have such a beautiful home. We've never lived in a brand new home. Just knowing that I can afford my rent and I can still live and do other things for the kids. We're not struggling. We're not, trying to figure out, well, do I pay rent this month, or do we eat, or do we, do these things you need to do for school? we can do what we need to do and still live. And it's a sense of stability that we've never had before. Well, I think it affects my children in the way that they see me, they see the struggles that I've gone through, and they see where we are, and it lets them know that anything is possible.
Folks, welcome back to CMM Live, where we are helping Long Island thrive. Our issue we are talking about today is housing. We were just talking to Sal Ferro, the president and CEO of Alure Home Improvements. And now we have the pleasure and the honor to be speaking with Gwen O'Shea, who's the president and CEO of the Community Development Corporation of Long Island. Gwen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're really happy to have you here. We just spent, 30 minutes or so talking to Sal about all the wonderful housing projects he's working on, the remodels that he's working on, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the other side of that coin, I think, that exists here on Long Island. Long Island is really an amazing place because it's really a tale of two cities, right?
Absolutely.
You have so much going on one end and so little going on the other end. And, but let's start with you. So
Okay.
you recently became the president and CEO. I think it was.
I
What is it,
did,
about,
March.
Yeah, so it's a year in March, right?
Yeah, it was so about 15 months now. I joined the tremendous team, 85 employees at Community Development Corporation of Long Island. And I succeeded Marianne Garvin, who is a legacy, in the Long Island community in terms of what she was able to do with and for the organization and for Long Islanders. I had served on the board for a couple of years. Actually, Marianne and I got to know each other really well after Sandy. We worked closely together. When I was at Health and Welfare Council of Long Island, we were facilitating the Long Island VOAD and the Long-Term Recovery Group, and Marianne asked me to join the board. And that was how I really, I always knew CDCLI has always had a fantastic reputation in the community, connecting with the community. And so when Marianne announced that she was going to step down, a few people approached me about what do I think about maybe succeeding Marianne. And I'm so happy that the fantastic board that's there decided to appoint me in that position. And it's been a whirlwind of a past year, but tremendous experience, tremendous opportunity. And it's just like such a pleasure to work with the team that's there and with the board and with other new community partners and leaders like Sal and other folks that in my previous role I really didn't have an opportunity to work with. So it's just, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I remember hearing about the fact that you had been made CEO, and I was so happy. Gwen and I got to know each other through Energia. We're both Energia partners, and you'd done some presentations there, and I was like, this is a person that just makes Long Island proud, just by being.
Thank you so much.
It's so true. The crux of this whole show is, highlighting folks that have the talent to be anywhere, but yet chose Long Island to make their home and make their professional, career. Right. So why Long Island? So on that vein, why are you on Long Island?
It's so funny because I'm one of those sort of stereotypical Long Islanders that growing up here said, I will never come back. Right. I'll never come back to Long Island. I'm going to live someplace else. And I did spend some time on the West Coast. I grew up on the island, but ended up coming back. And really, it was a couple of opportunities that were sort of the game changers for me. They talk about there's certain events that happen in life that sort of drive you down a certain path. And the first experience for me was I had the privilege of being able to study abroad. When I was in college, my junior year, I lived in Italy. And I went to the school for foreigners. And everyone that was there was from a different country and going to the school to be able to learn how to speak Italian. And the only way that we could communicate, whether it was someone from Korea or Japan or Brazil or New York, was attempting to speak Italian. And we used to have get-togethers with folks from our class. I lived with 7 other women. And what was so striking to me was the beauty and benefit of diversity and being able to interact and learn from and engage with other individuals. And when I came back to the States after having that experience, I started to think about my experiences here on Long Island, and there were really two pieces that struck me in terms of getting me to this career. One was, as I thought about my opportunities to be in Italy, to be able to obtain, an undergraduate degree, while a lot of that came from my parents and them working hard, working class family. My father was a New York City police officer. My mother worked at a doctor's office. I had opportunities that not everyone on Long Island has. And it became very clear as I started to dig and do some of the background and research on Long Island. You think about how Long Island became really established. I mean, obviously it was established by many native reservations many, many years ago, but when there was a planned establishment, and you look at Levittown and how Levittown was created, planned community, huge infusion of federal funds through the GI Bill, but in the deeds for the first decade it said that title couldn't be transferred to non-whites, and that really was the foundation of creating very segregated communities here on Long Island that don't have the same opportunities. And I, at that point, as I realized that, thought I wanted to spend time working in a space that created equal opportunities for everyone. And I was finishing up my undergraduate degree when I was doing an internship at a survival center, and talked to two individuals in particular that stand out to me. One was this gentleman that had worked in a factory, lost his job. It was sort of, he was a third generation factory worker and didn't know what he was going to do, potentially losing his home. He didn't do anything wrong per se. He just was the sort of the casualty of an evolution in the business community, and was struggling. And I thought, here's a perfect example, a symbol of why community development and economic stability is necessary to help people get through those tough times. And the other individual that stood out to me was a woman who had been in a mental health facility. There was, as deinstitutionalization happened across the country, Northampton and Massachusetts had a number of mental health institutions, and when they made a policy change to close down those institutions because they wanted everyone to have an opportunity to thrive in the community, while the policy made sense, the implementation was wrong in the fact that folks were left to now manage on their own when they had never had access or been part of a broader community. And so that got me thinking about the importance of policy work, of advocacy, and seeing sort of an idea through to implementation and making sure that it is implemented in a way that allows individuals to thrive. And so that's a very long sort of overview of sort of the points in my life that got me into really committing, and I feel so privileged to be able to work in a space where I'm doing things that are personally important to me from a social justice and advocacy perspective.
Yeah, and that passion is what is so remarkable about you, right? Is that's what it needs. Every cause needs a rock in someone's shoe, and you have to have that passion to come out. Let's talk about the not-for-profit sector in general for a minute, right? Because I think so many people, and I've served on a lot of boards, and you've spent your career in it, and I think so many people feel a little discouraged sometimes because not-for-profits have become businesses unto themselves.
Absolutely.
And so how do you stay motivated, and how do you stay reinvigorated? Because a lot of business folks watching this are scratching their heads sometimes when they get involved,
So I think it's a really good question and conversation and dialogue that needs to happen amongst a cross-section of folks because, we always talk about at CDCLI, we are a small part of a larger, comprehensive constituency, whether it's stakeholders, elected officials, board members. And one of the, I think, misnomers oftentimes that people have is nonprofits and businesses really aren't that different, with the exception of we invest our revenue in our mission, right? So a business may give those revenues and those earnings to a stakeholder, but our responsibility is to use those funds in a very strategic way to meet an actual need in the community. And I'm fortunate to work with such a broad cross-section of board members that get the importance of innovation, that get the importance of investment. And oftentimes, I think because nonprofits have struggled, there's been a huge growth. Government has shifted the way in which it funds nonprofits. I think the idea is actually right, but the implementation hasn't been executed. Government should be purchasing services. They shouldn't be a pass-through. They should say, if a nonprofit has expertise in providing X, Y, or Z that meets a community need, they should be paid appropriately and fully to cover that cost. And so I think we have to shift the way, as a nonprofit executive, and I have this conversation oftentimes with lots of the great leaders on the island, is how do we create a sustainable business model that has diversified funding, is not dependent on one funding stream, and holding ourselves accountable to really look at are the services that we're providing meeting a need in the community? Because our communities have changed so dramatically, over sort of the past decades when there's really a growth in the number of nonprofits in the industry.
Yeah, tremendous issue, and it's definitely something that I think we need to sort of have ongoing dialogue about, because I think people are starting to, and the role of not-for-profits is shifting. You stated it very eloquently. I mean, not-for-profits are granted that status because they're almost quasi-governmental agencies that are able to provide services that the government just can't provide, but recognizes needs to be provided into those communities. So there has to be a reshifting of the partnership and
absolutely. Government has a role to play. I mean, I think we all agree that with that. It's very large in certain areas because of just its structure. It doesn't have the same type of flexibility. It doesn't have the ability to be as fluid as a nonprofit does to really respond to those needs in the community. And so the conversation has to continue, about how do we ensure that the resources that we have are going again to those needs that we know are in fact there, and we're not, oftentimes someone thinks that they have a good idea, they want to start a nonprofit, but haven't really looked at sort of the broader environment of, there are 6 other agencies that maybe are doing that. Is there a way, are there some synergies there? Can you play a different role in supporting that organization to be successful so that the limited amount of dollars that are coming from government or philanthropic donors are used as effectively as possible?
Yep. So before the show, you mentioned that you love your job, so I want to talk about that a bit because I love hearing that. So CDCLI, talk about its mission, and talk about your passion for it and why you love it so much.
Sure. I mean, I could go on and on, so I'll try to give you the abridged version of it. But we are, while we're well known, we're not as known as we would like to be. We kind of consider ourselves one of the best kept secrets on Long Island as an organization that was founded almost 50 years ago now, 49 years ago. I have not obviously been there for the duration, as we just talked about my transition. But it was founded by a cross-section of community leaders and stakeholders that at that point in time, 50 years ago, recognized the need for housing for everyone, and that there was a lack of housing for all individuals and all family sizes. And so since that point in time, the organization has had a number of executives. I'm privileged to be one of them that is really working on, again, how do we look at key areas. From our perspective, we focus on community development and housing for all, economic stability, and advocacy. And so our mission is to invest in your dreams. I mean, the short sort of soundbite of it is really, we want to support every individual and community, both individually and collectively, to be able to thrive. As the title of your show is, it's about helping people thrive at every level and in a way that they see, fit for them. Because not everyone wants to be a homeowner. Not everyone wants to drive to work. And so our role is, helping individuals, whether it's through working with for-profit developers to create new multifamily development in either a transit-oriented location or a community that is really lacking affordable housing. We work with individuals who may be looking to obtain housing, and so we actually oversee close to a little bit over 6,000 housing choice vouchers for individuals, do inspection of those homes. We have a quite robust homeownership center where we work with everyone from the beginning of the process all the way to the end. So helping individuals understanding the importance of credit, of building credit, of what it takes to be a home buyer, understanding property taxes, helping individuals rehab their homes. We have over 6,000 homes that have been rehabbed through our weatherization program, primarily senior citizens, that are house rich and maybe not even so rich anymore, but have the house, but cash poor, living on very limited incomes, need some modifications to the home. Our team does that, helping to alleviate some of the costs they may be spending on energy bills, so that money can go cover things like food and health insurance and transportation, because we know the cost of everything on Long Island has been rising, exponentially over the past decade. And unfortunately, whether it's benefits from Social Security or wages for individuals, those have remained stagnant. And so it's a challenge for a much larger percentage of Long Islanders than people think.
Yeah, so what are those numbers, right? What's the stats? I had Randy Dresner on the show, and she was talking about 1 in 10 people on Long Island are food challenged. challenged.
Yeah.
They don't know where the next meal's coming from. Housing seems to be one of those other things that nobody talks about in that way. But what are the stats, right?
And one of the reasons that individuals are so food challenged is because of the high cost of housing, the rise in housing cost, and the lack of affordable housing. So when you talk about, looking at your budget and what sort of rule of thumb, the state comptroller had put out a report that spoke to really, to be financially stable, individuals shouldn't be spending more than 30% of their income on either rent or mortgage. And that's across the board, no matter what your income is. On Long Island, close to 60% of Long Islanders are spending over that percentage, which means we know that creates anxiety and stress for individuals, which has implications on your mental health, on your physical health. It means that you do not have the cash to cover all the other necessities, again, whether it's health insurance, whether it's disposable things like after-school programs or sports events for kids, not having those resources available. Close to 40% of Long Islanders across the board live below the self-sufficiency standard, which means they cannot have any unforeseen expense. Otherwise, they're behind the 8 ball in terms of being able to cover things like their rent and food and transportation.
Yeah, those are staggering, and it's. In talking to Sal in the first part of this segment, we talked about how people's homes are their sanctuaries. They need a place to just find some peace, get some escape out of the stresses of the world. If folks don't have that, they have nowhere to turn. So it seems like really incredible work that you guys are doing. So talk us through the process. Do you deal with individuals? Do you deal with community groups? How does it all work?
That's a really good question, and we touch any and all. So we may work with an individual, as I mentioned, that qualifies for a housing choice voucher. And so they'll come in, they'll apply through us. We'll work with them to share information and resources about where there may be some affordable housing that they may be interested in renting. We may work with individuals who are looking to become first-time home buyers. They come in, they call us, they want to understand the process of qualifying for a mortgage. They want to understand the process of getting their credit in check. And so we provide counseling sessions to individuals. We'll work with individuals to build their overall financial stability. We'll lend to individuals. We have a community development finance institution, one of only a handful on the island, which really allows us to provide capital to individuals to either become a first-time home buyer, to do some rehabilitation. We're working closely with Suffolk County government right now to lend so folks can put new septic systems into their homes, because there's close to 400,000 septic systems in Suffolk County that are leaking nitrogen into the groundwater, and that's obviously a concern to all of us. We will provide opportunities to work with developers under our asset management and resident services program. So developers that are going to be building a multi-family or multi-unit building in some place on the island, we'll work with them to understand the process to lease up individuals that are part of sort of the affordable unit. We'll do the outreach for them. We'll target communities to let folks know and make them aware. We do the certifications to review that individuals are still income eligible. We provide, and we're expanding our resident services program, which really will look to work with individuals in different multifamily developments and communities to figure out what are some of the supports that they could use. For example, pre-eviction services, how to educate individuals on their rights as a resident, as a tenant, how to provide them with that information to maybe get to the next level of, again, becoming a home buyer or looking at creating additional savings so that they have that financial stability that they may need to move forward.
Yeah, those are all great services. What I like about them is it's not a think tank. It's really boots. You're doing policy, but you got boots on the ground service that are really making a difference. And I think you need that mix. There's too many people out there who are giving hypothetical solutions, but not really providing that boots on the ground service.
Absolutely, and you know so well and have talked about, the multi-layers of government that we have here on Long Island, that while it's an island, we have our counties, we have, multiple taxing jurisdictions, multiple layers of local government, and it's really understanding what their needs are, helping them understand what their community's needs are, and how can we build that together, whether it's us providing financial support for pre-construction development, or having a conversation with some of the the civic groups that have been talking about affordable housing, working with elected officials to make sure their housing their code is up to standard and it complies with affirmative housing requirements. But it's really this experience for me has been such an eye-opener because, to your point, in my previous role, there was certainly direct service that we provided. But this is direct service with stakeholders and community members, and then using that experience to help drive some of the policies or legislative changes that need to be made to really allow communities and individuals at all levels thrive.
So it sounds very busy, and, it sounds very busy. And I think you have like 85 employees, right? So Gwen, the CEO, what's a typical day like for you?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. It could range. It could include, meeting with leadership from the state level, housing and community renewal, to talk about rolling out an award that we may have gotten for a multifamily development with a development partner, what the requirements are going to be to bring the construction closing to fruition. It could be working with the team to talk about expanding our sustainable business initiative, which goes back to what I mentioned earlier about really generating and creating revenue for the organization. It could be include talking to an elected official about understanding the Long Island Workforce Affordable Housing Act. I could be meeting with colleagues to talk about how we're going to move a policy forward. It could be a board committee meeting, to talk about an overview of the loans and lending that we've been doing. So any given day, there could be a variety of different issues.
Yeah, it's good stuff, though. It's exciting stuff. So your culture, your leadership style, the culture that you're building at CDCLI, it's such a respected organization. It's in such good hands. How are you doing that? So transitions are always hard. How are you building that culture there?
Transitions are always difficult, and I will say, however, I think at CDCLI it has been less difficult than in other areas because the foundation is so solid. We're financially sound, and that's because we have a great finance department, many individuals that have been there through transitions and seen some of our different funding sources and business lines. We have a tremendous cross-section of staff that have covered a variety of different programs and are committed to our mission and have been very welcoming and engaging. Everyone is committed to what we do, and so it's really building off of that. And how do we not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So you don't want to get rid of something that works, but you want to continue to push the envelope and continue to move that mission by really looking at, again, sort of the data and the needs within our communities so that we can continue to meet that need effectively for residents as they come forward.
Yeah, so Hurricane Sandy was a big issue here on Long Island, and I know it's been years back. I guess you were probably on the board of the CDCLI when Hurricane Sandy hit. Just before. So, but the organization was very involved in that, and I want to talk about that a little bit because I was just saying to Sal on the prior episode, we're now engaged with 35 families that still are not back in their homes. So talk about that whole experience, because I think that's where folks really on Long Island woke up about, housing and being displaced.
We always say that Hurricane Sandy sort of pulled back the curtain on the lack of housing opportunities, affordable housing, the infrastructure needs on Long Island, how it really became much more exposed after that. We were clear at the beginning, leadership that came in from other areas across the country and saw the scope of the impact of Sandy on the island and said this is a 5 to 7 year recovery at minimum. And so the fact that we're this far out isn't necessarily surprising. It doesn't make it any less painful and challenging for individuals that are in the midst of it. But CDCLI, because of its ability, as we were talking about nonprofits being able to be fluid and flexible, was able to work very closely with Suffolk County in particular. Right after the storm, my predecessor, was talking with the county executive Balone at the time about creating the STEP program, which was an opportunity over Thanksgiving Day weekend, nonetheless, about how to make some minor modifications to properties, to homes, so that individuals could stay in their home while going through the recovery process. And that was really in response to, you may recall after Katrina, there were a lot of challenges with the trailers that FEMA was putting on properties, and so everyone wanted to avoid that. And we knew, with less than, or roughly 27, 28% rental stock, that Long Islanders weren't going to be able to temporarily move into rental facilities because there weren't any.
Right.
So the organization was able to respond and work very closely with government at that period in time. And shortly after that, Mary Ann and I worked closely together when I was still at Health and Welfare Council of Long Island to create a bridge loan program. So because of our CDFI, we were able to access $1 million of capital from Bank of America at zero interest to lend to individuals who were going through the New York Rising process. So individuals at that point in time, the program has shifted, but let's just say they found that your house had $100,000 worth of damage and you were going to get a $100,000 reward. At that period in time, they would give you $50,000. Then you had to finish the other $50,000 of construction, pay for it, get your C of O, and then get reimbursed. And we know that the majority of Long Islanders, as we just talked about some of the numbers, didn't have $50,000.
Right.
So they were stuck saying, I'm not going to be able to, rebuild my home and be in a safe, stable environment. So we used the bridge loan along with the Unmet Needs Roundtable and the disaster case managers that were staffed through a variety of other nonprofits. It was a huge collaborative effort to lend to individuals to fill that gap so they could have the construction be completed and they could get back into their home.
That's what I love about leadership, is seeing that and finding a creative way to come together, collaborate, and really help people, accomplish something that's so critical. Just a few minutes left, but what are the biggest challenges you see right now on Long Island with regards to housing, and what do you think the solutions are?
A really good question. There are definitely challenges to housing. I'm optimistic. Because there's a lot of really great stuff happening right now on the island related to that. And that is because there's been a cross-section and infusion of lots of different funding sources and really smart community leaders, whether it's developers, elected officials, philanthropists, that are pooling their funds to drive this type of development, right? So you look at Wyandanch Rising, amazing, huge investment infrastructure-wise, sewer, water connectivity had to be done there, but what's happening there is absolutely breathtaking and is going to be a game changer to not gentrify, but help support and grow the community. Part of that is due to the fact that there's a lot of money that comes down from the state right now with the regional economic development councils. That has been instrumental to us in creating projects like Peconic Crossing, Wyandanch, hopefully soon Hempstead. So it's that cross section of funding and thinking innovatively and not expecting one person to sort of carry the charge. And it's talking with individuals about what does creating this type of housing really mean? We had, I mentioned Peconic Crossing, so this is a 45-unit development that we're doing in partnership with Conifer Realty. Downtown Riverhead has artist space on the bottom floor. We had the lottery a few weeks ago, 45 units. We got 900 applications.
Wow.
And talking to the people that were there, it's like, this is the strength of Long Island that we want to keep here. It's a young individual who's an artist and wants to be living with other artists and wants to be part of a downtown community that has walkability. It's a senior whose children live in the community and wants to be near her grandchildren and able to provide childcare and be able to walk around and see her friends. That's economic and community development at its finest, and that's the type of project, or those are the types of projects we want to really continue to move forward.
Yeah, and we have to break here, but folks, we're so lucky to have been joined today by Gwen O'Shea. You saw her passion, the CEO of CDCLI. Fantastic organization. Gwen, folks want to get in touch with you guys. What's the best way to do it?
We would love any and all folks to be connecting with us. They can go through our website, www.cdcli.org, and reach out to myself or any of our other colleagues that are leading the charge in a variety of different departments, whether you want to volunteer, intern, donate, provide some thoughts and feedback. We look forward to working with many more of you.
Great. Top-notch organization, top-notch leadership. Gwen, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.